This kind of reminds me of one of the most embarrassing moments of my PhD. Publishing papers isn't this magical process anybody at my big PhD age, so at the end of the day. What's up, y'all? It's Fuego. It's been a long time, right? It's been basically a year since I posted last, and that's really been because I've been trying to balance research with my startup, and honestly, I've really been trying to graduate. Turns out I'm not. Well, at least I'm not graduating anytime soon. I recently had a conversation with my advisor, and basically I could graduate in May of next year, or in September, or December, or the year after that. Who really knows? But I'll probably be an 8th or 9th year grad student before I graduate. You can imagine how discouraging a conversation like that might be, but I'm actually kind of happy about it, you know? I'm a little bit inspired. I'm gonna explain this more in detail in this video, and I'm also gonna talk about some of the things that I just wasn't really thinking about when I first started grad school. But before we get into that, if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name's Fuego. I'm currently finishing my PhD at MIT, and I also have a startup, so I talk a lot about tech and grad school. So if you're interested in those kinds of videos, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I think I was indoctrinated into the idea that the PhD was the most important milestone in your career if you want to have an impactful career in the sciences. But these days, I don't really think that's true. If you think about the people who have the most impact in tech and science this day and age, you know, the billionaires and their companies, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, SpaceX, Google, it seems like big companies rule the science and tech spaces these days, and it's really hard to compete, especially while dealing with all the requirements of completing a doctorate. There's this paper that I always mention to my mentees called Survival Strategies for Depressed AI Academics. I think my advisor mentioned it to me last year, so you can kind of guess how I was feeling, but the paper basically talks about some strategies that you as an independent PhD researcher, or I guess an independent professor as well, can do to compete with these large research corporations like Google, Meta, SpaceX, whatever. But what I really think this paper shows me is that getting a PhD is much less about trying to become a prominent figure in the sciences than it is learning how to contribute to the research field. And while those things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, it means that there's a lot of strategy behind how you grow and cultivate your career and find a way to have a lasting impact on tech and the sciences. I just completed my 7th year of the PhD, and I don't necessarily count the first 2 years of my PhD. You can watch this video if you're interested in why. Regardless, I've already been here for 7 years, and so I think that anybody at my big PhD age would want to get out as soon as possible. But the potential of the research that I'm working on is why I'm really excited to spend a couple more years on the PhD. I have a little bit of work in the robotics space that I've been able to present at a conference, so I'm really excited to have a little bit more time in this early phase of my career to really build upon that work and really beef up my research portfolio. I've really struggled to publish, and this kind of reminds me of one of the most embarrassing moments of my PhD. I was searching for a new advisor after my first advisor had dropped me, and I was just talking to a lot of professors and getting rejection after rejection after rejection. On some level, I just couldn't figure out why, but I would just go in there and I really thought that I could just say, I want to do this research and this is what my thesis is going to be on. This is how much funding I think I need and blah, 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 blah. While confidence is key, being humble and having a little bit more of a coachable attitude, I think was what a lot of these professors were looking for. And that's really why I struggled to publish, because I was somewhat unwilling to compromise on the research direction that I wanted to pursue. And I was really looking for a very specific advisor who was doing very specific things. Like almost everything, the most important part of the PhD is the people that you meet and interact with and the network that you build along the way of learning all the science that you're learning. The relationships that you have with your advisor and your peers who will become your colleagues in the future, those relationships can have just as big of an impact on your career as the research that you produce itself. You can potentially outwork everybody else to climb to the top, but it's very difficult to exist in a vacuum. We see this in our everyday life, in our career, as we have to provide references sometimes for scholarships and jobs, and even in our interpersonal relationships. I mentioned relationships and publishing together because publishing is probably the most important thing you should do during a PhD, and that becomes much easier when you have a large team of collaborators. This is why big tech companies dominate. But even in the university setting, it's very rare to see someone with dozens of publications and no collaborators. And tech companies usually have large teams. Collaboration simply makes it easier to publish. Publishing papers isn't this magical process that you're not sure of whether or not your research is good. There's a systematic process you can take and evaluations that you can apply to gauge your odds of whether or not this paper will be successful when you're publishing it. And while those systems and evaluations make the process of publishing papers easier, you definitely still have to take the time and use your physical and mental energy to do those things properly. And so at the end of the day, the most important thing is to take care of yourself and to stick to your plan so you can keep pushing forward. your goals as a scientist can become a reality. Let me know if y'all would be interested in a video on the process of publishing papers and how you can kind of gauge your odds of success before you even receive feedback. And if you have any other random questions, definitely put them in the comments below. I always reply. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.